Welcome to Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue ones that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. Of course, if you love daily comic book content and you like me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, hit that subscribe button. And guys, this is part 2 of 2 this week. There were so many new number ones out that I had to make 2 separate parts for this week's Worthy Ones. 14 issue ones all together. That is absolutely insane. So with that being said, let's continue with this week's episode. Bitterroot, the next movement. This is issue 1, 32 pages for the price of $4. It's written by Chuck Brown and the art is done by David F. Walker. Supposedly, I guess this book is not the first time it's been out. I did a little bit of research and it looked like there was a series before this that came out in 2019, because when I read it, I felt like the characters maybe were a little bit established or this agency was established. So I kind of felt a little bit lost with some of the characters in here, but the artwork is very, has its own distinct style and I really like it. I thought the coloring was good. It takes place in the 60s during the civil rights movement, which was pretty cool. And it definitely has that vibe and tone. I like the characters, the way they looked, and just like, I don't know, their stances and everything I thought was pretty badass. And what happens in this book is like, there is this accident that happens with this school bus or whatnot, or on this bus. And there's these monsters that like take over the bus and do all these horrific murders, and then you wind up getting the police and the FBI, and you get all these characters that are investigating kind of like what's going on. And then you got this agency, which are the main characters of the group, trying to intervene as well. Again, I highlight the artwork in this book, which was really outstanding. But I just felt like I was just a little bit lost and I couldn't capture 100% what was going on with like the characters and whatnot. I like the book. I do think it's worthy. However, I don't think it was quite like good enough for me to continue going on. But I do recommend it if you're looking for something a little bit different, or if you're not reading as many titles as I am. So I'm going to give this one a C+. Definitely an interesting mystery here of these creatures that wind up killing all these people. We just don't have enough answers yet to all these questions. So if you're in the Bitterroot and maybe you read the previous series, you might want to continue reading this one. Far Down Below, this is issue 1, published by Mad Cave Studios. They seem to try at least one book a week from these guys, and they're always hit or miss. This is a $5 comic book. This one's written by Chris Condon, and artwork is done by Gigi Scow. I don't know if I said that correctly. I probably didn't. I never do. Here's what you can expect out of the artwork. It's nothing like really super spectacular or anything like that, because there's just not a lot of action going on. It really highlights these 2 boys by the name of Mike and Brian. And this is an 80s book, so if you grew up in this time, you can relate to maybe like a lot of this stuff that's going on in this comic book, right? So again, the artwork was just okay. It's serviceable. It does what it needs to do to tell the story. It will be interesting to see what happens in future issues with it. Now, when it comes to this story, we wind up getting these 2 kids who are playing with their Star Wars action figures and all this other stuff, and they're just bored, right? And so what happens is they go downstairs to get the mom a bottle of wine, I guess cooking wine or whatnot, and they come across this key, and it was this key belongs to their grandfather who had a house maybe down the street or whatnot. And supposedly there's rumors that this house was haunted, right? So of course they wind up driving their bikes to the house, and they start hearing sounds and they start freaking out. And then there's a hole in the ground that they fall through, and it's not into a basement, but they fall into like, I don't know, into the ground, you know? And then it looks like maybe there's some creepy stuff down below. That's why it's called Far Down Below. So this book was worthy. just because it had me intrigued enough to continue the story. I want to know where this is going to go and how creepy it could actually be, and how do these two kids handle it. Kind of reminds me of like Goonies, right? In a way, but it's only a couple of characters. So this could be really good or it could become really bad. I still think it's really undecided, but I liked it and I like the timeline of it. So that's why I give it a little bit of a higher bump. So I gave this one a B-. I want to know if you guys checked this book out. Universal Monsters, The Mummy, Issue 1. Now, I've supported the Universal Monster books from the start. I've read Dracula, I've read Frankenstein, I read The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and now we get The Mummy. And I was always a little hesitant about The Mummy because The Mummy is just a character that kind of just is in bandages and walks around. But I did like the Mummy movies. I liked the Tom Cruise Mummy movie. I liked the previous Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser. So I was like, let's see what this comic book has to offer, right? This one is a $5 comic book. It's written by Faith Erin Hicks, and Lee Lurhidge is the artist on the book. The artwork really didn't do it so much for me in this book. I didn't like the way the characters looked. They almost looked too cartoony, almost too lighthearted. This is supposed to be more of a horror book than anything, even though it is just The Mummy. I just never felt like this book did anything to, I don't know, artistically scare me or to feel like at the edge of my seat. Here is the way The Mummy looks. Like, you got a creature and you would think he would look much more intimidating than this. He just, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me whatsoever. And artistically, it was a miss. Now, when it came to the book, it came to the timeline between like 1921, or I'm sorry, I think it was 1912 and 1921, as we learned about this young woman by the name of Helen, who's always been stuck between two worlds, right? She was, I think, born in Egypt, and her mother married a person from Britain, and he was always into, digging and finding artifacts, and he's been doing it for years. And so she's never been accepted in this world, right? So as she's gotten older, she's come across friends. She's trying to be accepted amongst the friend group, and she has this boy that likes her. And then one day there's this strange voice that attracts her to the dig site. She makes her way there. She passes out. Somehow the mummy appears, and she gets punished for hanging out with, like, supposedly, I guess the father calls them peasants and all this other stuff. And I don't know, man. It just was just this crazy, like, I don't know, coming of age story that I didn't expect to see in a Mummy book. And all you do is you just see him at the end standing there looking over the city, which means he's probably going to hunt the city. This book wasn't worth it. This just was not what I was expecting from a Mummy book. I'm just not feeling this one. So artistically, it didn't hit the mark. The story didn't hit the mark. I felt like I was reading a come of age book, which this should be a horror book. So this one, winds up getting a D-. Did you guys check out the Mummy, or did you wind up passing on this book? Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four, Issue 1. So curious to see how this whole thing would work. You got Godzilla, who's the king of monsters, facing against the Fantastic Four, which is not out of the realm. They've definitely have fought against huge foes before, like Galactus, and it's definitely referenced in this comic book, right? And this one is written by Ryan North, who currently does the Fantastic Four series. And the artwork on this book is done by John Romita Jr. However, in this book, I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. There is some decent action scenes in here. I did find it funny how Reed Richards winds up like growing so big that he can make this huge fist and knock out freaking Godzilla. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. But there was some decent scenes here where we get to see Godzilla use his flame and take on the Fantastic Four. So I felt like, John Romita Jr. did a little bit better than I would say in his Amazing Spider-Man run here. So what this story is that you have the Fantastic Four fighting Godzilla because Godzilla is coming to New York and they got to stop him. This is great artwork, though. This looks like it shows like an older maybe comic with the Avengers and Godzilla, so that was kind of cool. But anyway, and you get to see that our Fantastic Four like tries to stop them, and then they do, and then what happens is they come across this guy right here. What is his name? I can't even pronounce that. King Ghidorah. He's like the three-headed beast, right? And so they can't stop this thing. They're spent. So then Silver Surfer comes, and then what happens is Silver Surfer's idea is going, hey, I'm going to give Godzilla the power cosmic so Godzilla can fight this beast, right? And so that's kind of what happens in here. And then you got like freaking Fantastic Four coming in there and trying to help out, and the thing gets flung in the air, and it's so funny, dude. Like him and Human Torch go flying, and then like, this is the scene right here. It's like, okay, here goes Thing. He wallops this guy, and then the Thing is right here, and he's like, maybe I should have thought this through better, because he just falls to the ground. There's some funny moments in this book. It's one of those books where it's a one-shot. You just take it for what it is, and you enjoy it. And that's what I did with it. And it does have to do with Galactus and maybe future confrontations with that character. I thought this book was worthy. I really did have a lot of fun with it. It was another one of those books, just like the Deadpool book, where I had no expectations, and I enjoyed it. And so at the end of the day, I gave this one a B-. I like when you have no expectations for comics and they like exceed those expectations. So yeah, if you're looking for a fun time, check this book out. I think this book could get lost in a very heavy week, though. Doom's Division, this is issue 1. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5. I've been checking out all the One World Under Doom titles just to see what they have to offer. And this one is written by Yuha Lee and Minghu Young. Maybe I said it right. Here's what you can expect in the artwork. I thought the artwork was fine. I don't think it was the best, but it definitely showcased all the characters pretty well. You definitely get to see your fair share of Luna Snow in this comic book, and I would say she might be probably the most recognizable character in this comic, and maybe that's why they highlighted her so much, especially since she's in Marvel Rivals. So that's what I could gather why she had most of the panel time in this comic book. Now, the other characters were in this book are General, Tiger Division, Gun R2, Lady Bright, Mr. Enigma, and all those other characters. Now, my issue with this comic book is that I don't know enough about these characters to really want to pick up this book. And I was hoping that this comic would really explore more of those comics. But when I read it, at least me, I gathered that you're almost expected to know who these characters are. And we're going to highlight Luna Snow the most about her up-and-coming new album that is being released, right? And the whole reason why this comic exists is because obviously Doom is going for his version of world peace, and he names the Tiger Division the Doom Division, okay? And they're South Korea's, defense team. That's basically what they are. So again, you spend a lot of the beginning parts of this comic book where you get to see the team kind of face off against like this statue demon and whatnot, and then you have all that stuff with Luna Snow, and then you got some politics stuff, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't hit it for me. So for me, this book was not worthy. It just could have done a better job at getting you to know all of the characters. And then the kicker at the end of this comic book is they introduced even more characters. And you're like, okay, well, here we go. Here is Wave from the Philippines. You got Arrow, and then you wind up getting, I think maybe that was the two. There's show 3, but I only see 2 names. But anyway, That's who you wind up getting. Now, I only know Wave because of the Marvel Snap game. They don't really do such a great job at introducing those characters either. So, yeah, I'm not going to continue this one going forward. I didn't do a great job, and I just wasn't really into it to the point where I was like, oh man, I must read issue 2. So, yeah, at the end of the day, I gave this one a D. It's unfortunate. I wanted to really like this and kind of explore the other side of things. But I don't know, man. Peacemaker presents The Vigilante Eagly double feature issue 1. Man, say that 5 times. This one is 32 pages for the price of $4. Now, side note here, I never watched the Peacemaker show. A lot of people told me it was really good. So this story supposedly takes place after that TV show. And we also get the first appearance of a new character here by the name of Vigilante. And his name is Adrian Chase. And mostly this comic book is about that character. So if you're really here to read nothing but Peacemaker, you might be a little bit disappointed. But I'm telling you, this Vigilante character does not disappoint. This guy is a trip. The story is, I guess, attached to James Gunn. There's a couple of different writers on here, a couple of different artists, because there is like 2 stories in this book. Here's what you can expect in the artwork here. The Vigilante character is awesome. Adrian, that's his name. He like throws axes. Like that's how he like kills his people. And just the beginning of this book was like very gory, and just the murder scenes are awesome. And then it throws a few F-bombs. This is a Black Label book, so that's what you can expect from Peacemaker. The Adrian character is just a unique person, right? He doesn't understand certain things the way they're meant to be, right? So for instance, I'll say this. He works at a diner, and the female that works here, right? She goes, "Hey, Adrian," or she goes, "Hey, Busso." She's like, "Man, I want to F your brains out." And he's like, "My brains?" He's like, "Why would you want to do those?" He goes, "Just stuff them in your mouth like you're going to eat them, but then like pretend to puke them out again?" She's like, "Oh, that's disgusting." And then the waitress is like, "What?" And so like that's how he literally takes certain conversations. There's another conversation in there with like, I don't know, with like him shitting and stuff like. It's just so like way out there. But he explains to the audience that, you know, the Peacemaker is his buddy, is his best friend. They've had good adventures together, and he can't get a hold of them. He thinks like something's wrong with them. So the next thing you wind up seeing is like he goes to this nursing home, and he thinks like these people are possessed by aliens, and he's trying to find somebody. It's just way out there. So that's kind of like what the first story was about. Peacemaker is actually going to Alaska. So he sold his friend out. He forgot. And his eagle doesn't say anything, right? He just sits there in a chair and on the airplane with them. Absolutely hysterical. And then you wind up getting to see the story of him going to Alaska and booking those tickets and needing a vacation. And then they come across these lizards and they fight these guys. This book was hysterical. This book was worthy. I had a fun time with it. I wouldn't think it's the best comic book in the world, but nevertheless, I did find it funny. People could be a little bit disappointed because they didn't get a lot of Peacemaker and you get this Vigilante character, but I enjoyed it, man. I liked it, and so I wound up giving this one a solid B. Let me know if you guys picked this one up this week. And our final book that we're talking about on this week's Worthy Ones goes to Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 1. People asked me yesterday in the comments, what about Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 1? And I was like, you know, this is a 2-part episode, and I'm not going to give away all the best books in the first episode, right? So this one is written by Denise Camp, and the artwork here is done by Javier Rodriguez. You're paying $5 for this book. It's obviously the first appearance of John Jones in the Absolute Universe, and this is a much different John Jones than what you're used to. The artwork was very unique and different in this comic. I really enjoyed it. And it's funny, I said this in my comic book haul, that I was like, oh man, if you want like the extra experience in this comic, you're going to want to smoke a bowl or smoke some weed, and you might get a better effect from this comic book. Do a couple shrooms, whatever it is. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm just, being funny. But anyway, it is a very trippy book, right? And what happens in this title is that you learn about who John Jones is. He's like this agent. He gets in this accident, and then all of a sudden, he winds up seeing all these different colors, all this smoke. Fire really bothers him because if you know the Martian Manhunter character, like fire is the character's weakness and whatnot. And we learn about John's life, like his family, his kids, how he doesn't spend time with them. And as time goes along, things like get weirder and weirder, and he's trying not to alarm his co-workers. He's saying that he's fine after this accident. He's trying not to alarm his family, and in between he's going to see doctors because again he sees all these crazy visions, and it's just like so intense, and I like really enjoyed it. And you're led to believe, like, is this guy actually like losing his mind, or is there something much more to him, right? And it was just so unique and different on how Denise Camp wrote this book and how the art was. And they went even to the point of when you got to page 25 and you get to this part of the comic book where it's like, oh yeah, hold up this page to the light and you'll get to see what's going on with John. And it works. Like, you do get it on the very back page like this, but you get to see his face, and then you get to see the Martian Manhunter's face inside of him, indicating that he is Martian Manhunter. So I thought that was really badass, very unique and different. And for that, I gotta give this book an A+. Will it continue to be such a perfect book going forward? I don't know. We don't know. This is pretty much, again, just setting things up on what's to come, but I give it credit for doing something different. So definitely a solid book, and you should check this one out. There you guys go. Hopefully you enjoyed the 2-part episode of Worthy Ones. I loved bringing it to you, but man, way too many books to read this week. A total of 35 books. That's a new record for me. So I've read like 14 books, and what do I still have? Like 20 something books to read, like 21 books to read. That's a lot, man. But hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Like I said, more content right here for you to click on. Check out part 1. I'll leave it for you here. And remember, guys, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting. But always remember, read your comics so we can have great comic conversation. Guys, thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one.